So my name is Alex Chavarongo, and I'm the co-founder of CeSTER Foundation, together with Thea Chrysostomo, who is also in the building, who is going to introduce herself just briefly. Thea, go ahead.
Hello, thank you everyone. Also, we are very glad that you're all participating here, and we are very thankful for everything, for our collaborators, for the teachers, and everyone for this event to happen. I'm Thea Chrysostomo, co-founder with Alex Kiwarongo of CeSTER Foundation, and we are really excited to have the first event of research and education. I'll let the floor to Alex to say more about the foundation, what's the vision, where we are doing this.
Thank you so much, Thea. So CeSTER stands for Center for STEM Education and Research. It's a nonprofit organization that is fully registered and incorporated in Uganda. And our vision is to champion STEM education and research in the region, first with Uganda, and then we can grow it outside the boundaries of Uganda. How did this vision come to be like this? So I met Thea Chrysostomo in Boston, USA in 2018. When I was in IGM competition, and we carried on to have our first seminar in Uganda that was also supported by Lecturers Without Borders. That was in 2019. So from there, we realized that we're actually trying to break the boundaries of synthetic biology, introducing synthetic biology into the Ugandan society. But we had a challenge that most of the people, including researchers, scientists, teachers, students, and even those in high school, had not yet much appreciated STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics models. And these are the ones that actually are the foundations or the grassroots of building a bioeconomy or a synthetic biology, biotechnology economy. And without it, we wouldn't be able to foster this bioeconomy. So we decided to start a foundation, and that's how Center for STEM Education and Research came about. Started as Fab Lab Uganda, and then we changed the name to make it more holistic to CeSTER. And we are glad that Lecturers Without Borders have been there to support in all ways to see that we have our first event. We had started to have it last year, but still we had not yet prepared well. So today is that day, and we are happy that we've been able to mobilize teachers amidst the challenges that they have, connectivity issues, being in remote areas. It's a bit challenging, but yes, it's the beginning, and we will see more to come. So we want to establish STEM education from the grassroots. That's from the high school to university and to high institutions, other high institutions of learning, through facilitating STEM education in terms of curriculum review, in terms of sharing STEM content, trying to see how holistic STEM can be taught. Biology, physics, mathematics, chemistry can be taught well coordinated, not having one part alone, or in silo, mathematics, everything coming together. And we will see this happen in the coming years. And we are glad that we have people who have joined us today that we will build with to see that this dream comes true in Uganda, in the Eastern Africa, in Africa, and globally. Thank you so much. I think Anna will give you time to carry on without wasting a lot of time for our lessons to learn today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think it's time to give the floor to our first speakers of today. I'm happy to introduce Barbara Calerani, I can say that long-term friend of Lectures Without Borders, yes. Ambassador of Scientix, and STEM expert and teacher. Barbara, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Anastasia. May I share my screen, please?
Yes, actually, it shall be working. Yes.
Okay. Do you see my screen? So right now?
Yes, we do.
Okay, let's start. Good morning, everybody. My name is Barbara Calerani. I'm a high school science teacher in Reggio Emilia, Northern Italy. I teach at IESS European High School, a school that is highly innovative in its teaching method. I got into STEM world thanks to the innovative personality of my school. We apply in everyday lessons the active learning method in order to engage students through an active approach. Well, a few years ago, I took a path in STEM through Scientix, the community of international science teachers. Last year, I finally became an ambassador for Scientix with the aim of spreading STEM internationally. Well, Scientix provides me and teachers with exceptional training courses and a lot of material to apply the STEM method to the lesson. Well, what is STEM or STEAM education? STEAM education is recognized as a global priority by public and educational authorities. It is an effort to combine all the 4 disciplines of science, technology, engineering, mathematics, as well as a non-science classes. In fact, the A in the word STEAM stands for all: literature, history, economics, language classes, and so on, into one class, unit, or lesson that is based on connections between the subjects and real-world problems, led to the idea of an integrated STEAM teaching. Well, until today, in schools, scientific disciplines have been taught in an isolated way. There wasn't STEM classes. In general, there was S classes, T classes, E classes, M classes, and not even the S was one. Science stands for physics classes, chemistry classes, biology, and so on. So in order to really get students to see the interest in STEM degrees and careers, and even more importantly, show students and society at large the key role that STEM plays in improving our lives and their need for our future, we need STEM to be taught in an integrated way. So we need all the letters in STEM to work together, and even better, all the subjects to work together. We need to apply measures to teach the different disciplines in an integrated way, connected to real life issues and the 21st century skills. So let's have a STEM overview. By integrating more than one STEM subject, we encourage the use of pedagogical methods such as inquiry-based learning, namely IBSE, or project-based learning, and prompt students to work collaboratively. The use of hands-on activities, namely do-it-yourself activities, and the respective resources is required. But most importantly, teachers need to make good use of the resources they have among them and work with their colleagues. The collaboration between teachers in different STEM disciplines is a positive factor to make your work effective. Integrated science subjects provides opportunities to increase interest in students, especially if they are exposed to scientific investigation. Scientific inquiry and design-based thinking underline problem-solving and decision-making processes across science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The thing I love most about this method is that it directly relates school-learned science to the real world. One thing I learned from my path in STEM is that STEM is everywhere, and it is. We can see science everywhere around us if we look carefully. We do not need large means and instruments, only our curiosity and creativity. The best discoveries are the so-called curiosity-driven ones. This is what I mean by pocket science. Well, inquiry-based science education is the base of STEM teaching because students work on actual solutions to problems or questions by conducting investigation and demonstrate their theories. They question every principle they have been taught and test it in activities that take place in class or in a lab. In teaching, IBSE workshops are an integral part of the course, which is focused on students learning rather than on teacher speeches. Understanding science is much more important than knowing facts. Effective learning requires students to be aware of and to be responsible for their own learning. The IBSE method encourages personal thinking, questioning, peer discussion, and debate. Students work in groups, ask questions, make observation and experiments, collect data and try to interpret them, formulate hypotheses and draw conclusions on the basis of their data. Well, the following scheme, which was proposed in 1989, summarizes IBSE, so inquiry-based science education theory, in the 5E instructional method. This experiential learning cycle applies both to learners and teachers who are able to understand effectively IBSE method only by practicing it in class. It consists of questions, experiments, and reflections on the results obtained from experiences. The most important feature of this proposal is that the explore step, as you can see, precedes the explain one, exactly the opposite of traditional teaching and learning. The first step to reach our goal is to engage. Teacher introduces the topic that would be covered in the next lesson, so students' minds begin to be engaged in the new topic. Teacher must be able to create a sense of mystery, stimulating curiosity, willingness to uncover knowledge and skills, or to build them, generating new questions in students, involving students on a personal level, inducing them to confront their previous knowledge. This is reached through short-term activities which create an unexpected, or at least uncertain ending. They insinuate doubt. In this phase, they are not told any formal law or formula. In no way is the conclusion of the case revealed. And then the explore phase. In this phase, students explore the phenomena or models they are studying through practical activities using their cognitive background. The aim is to ask new questions and generate autonomous explanations by integrating the collected data with own analysis. Teacher introduces scientific backgrounds and specific vocabularies to contextualize experience and make it more realistic, of course. Teacher is a guide during the whole experience. Then in the explain phase, students provide their own explanation of the phenomena for which they have collected data in the explore phase. The explanations are compared with those of their peers. Explanation can also be challenged by peer comparison. And then the elaborate or extend phase. Students apply generalizations of new learning to previous investigation. Hypotheses are tested through real-life scenarios. In doing so, they lay the foundations of an authentic knowledge, experienced and really understood, sealed by the cognitive framework provided by the teacher. And finally, the evaluate phase. Students are now able to self-evaluate their required competencies through target assessments, for example, through peer-to-peer reviewed training tests. They prove what they have come to know in writing, demonstration activities, and conversations, and the teacher can gradually see their progress. Well, this is a QWL chart that can be used for all subjects in whole group or small group. This chart is a comprehension strategy used to activate background knowledge prior to practicing activity and is completely student-centered. Teacher can use a version of this chart to evaluate students as well. You can ask students to fill in this chart at the very beginning of the activity, and at the end of it, the last column with the letter L might be filled out at the end of the activity. So what I have learned from the experience. Well, the teacher's role in inquiry-based science education learning, where the teacher shifts from a dispenser of knowledge role to a supporter, a coach of students' learning. He asks meaningful questions, namely open-ended questions. He creates learning scenarios to get students into real situation where they can face critical issues. He helps students construct their knowledge. He gives formative assessments that focus on experimental data and support students in reaching their learning goals and monitor their learning progress. Some examples of open-ended teaching questions might be, where can you find science around you? Do you think we can live without plastic? So students can choose how to answer, how they want to approach the problem to solve it. This would be a very personal approach. Well, what skills students develop by STEM method? Well, the inquiry method promotes in students critical thinking, collaborative skills, peer-to-peer discussion, self-evaluation, use of their knowledge to find new answers, problem solving in critical case studies, and connection between theory and the real world, and finally, awareness of science process. Well, PBL, project-based learning. Project-based learning is a student-centered approach that builds teaching and learning around projects. Projects are complex tasks based on real-life problems, challenging questions that enhance student problem-solving, design, decision-making, and inquiry skills. At the end of the pathway, students are able to produce something tangible, or a map, or a presentation of their work. Projects are central, not peripheral to the curriculum. Projects involve 2 or more subjects. Projects are realistic, not school-like. Well, you can see here other important tips of STEM methods, such as the problem solving and tinkering. Problem solving is a complex competence developed with a highly organized collaborative methodology in terms of roles and strategic vision, which aims to place students in a problematic situation, to identify a possible solution, and finally to verify the effectiveness of the solution by diagnosing the error. Students must learn to make mistakes and to face wrong conclusions first, in order to start again from the starting point. Tinkering is referred to a form of learning in which you learn by doing. All activities must be carried out in groups and consist of constructing or decomposing objects, designing moving machines, exploring materials or mechanical elements, creating original artifacts or chain reactions, for example. Well, I would like to show you some simple STEM experiences that I practiced in class without the aid of technological tools, but only using imagination, creativity, and of course, curiosity. Well, on the left, you can see photosynthesis in a glass. Just a few steps, a few leaves, a syringe, and sunlight are enough. This is a very exciting experience for those interested. I can share this simple operating protocol. Well, on the right, you see a bioplastic sample that we created by simply mixing starch, glycerin, and water and heating them in a pot. Outstanding result, a very resistant material that we can use to create small everyday objects and items to really use. This is an example of integrated scientific expertise, from sustainability to organic chemistry to materials chemistry and so on. So these are 2 examples of do-it-yourself activities. And then here is another experience that I remember with enthusiasm, a typical do-it-yourself activity. We have tackled the problem of depletion of food resources in the world and the scarcity of arable land and soil in some parts of the world by replicating a hydroponic system to show that it can be cultivated off the soil by water recycling. We used easily available materials and very simple techniques with an exceptional result, I would say. I can also share the whole illustrative video of this if you like. They are all absolutely reproducible experience and low-cost experience with no technological strategies. Well, CLIL in STEM. What is CLIL? CLIL stands for Content and Language Integrated Learning. Curriculum subjects ranging from humanities to STEM can be taught in a foreign language. So CLIL is based on active, interactive, dynamic activities, learning experience gained in the lab or during workshops, experiential learning, peer and group work. So all these strategies and techniques are perfectly in line with STEM teaching. So integrating a foreign language in STEM, in a lesson plan, in STEM activity, is a good way to shift from the word STEM to STEAM, where the A stands for CLIL. A foreign language can help us to shift from STEM to STEAM, to have a global vision of so many subjects involved. Well, the 21st century skills refers to a broad set of knowledge, skills, work habits, and character traits that are believed to be critically important to success in today's world, particularly in college programs, contemporary careers, and workplaces. Generally speaking, 21st century skills can be applied in all academic subject areas and in all educational, career, and civic settings throughout a student's life. Some examples from a wide list of skills provide a brief illustrative overview of the knowledge, skills, work habits, and character traits commonly associated to the 21st century skills. For example, critical thinking, problem solving, reasoning, analysis, interpretation, information, creativity, artistry, curiosity, imagination, but also growth, mindset, perseverance, self-direction, planning, self-discipline, oral and written communication, public speaking, leadership, teamwork, collaboration, and also citizenship, civic, ethical, and social justice literacy. Well, now we are one step before having all the elements to practice our integrated STEM lesson plan. So now we must have a title of our activity, a main theme around which to build, to implement our activity. We must have included at least 3 subjects in our learning lesson plan. We have dedicated at least 1 lesson of 45 to 60 minutes to each subject and these related activities. We have selected what kind of learning products our students will be asked to submit. We have clarified whether the final assessment will be on the basis of those learning products and their complexity or through a different method, for example, a test, a project, a presentation, or other. We must be creative. Well, this is an example of a STEM integrated lesson plan. This is a template we can use while creating our activity. The lesson plan has various sections and different requirements. An integrated STEM lesson plan consists of many parts and there are various subsections. For example, in the first part, you can see, as you can see here, teachers fill in all the required information that introduce their activity. Upon reading this section, the main topics, subjects, and selection of real-life questions and STEM career path, exams should be obvious. In the section Connection to STEM careers, you are invited to explain how the skills developed by the lessons you designed and the activities you chose connect to existing and prospective STEM careers. It is expected that a list of STEM career path will be provided and a brief explanation for each one will be given. So make sure to link those careers with the subjects you chose to include in your activity and be as detailed as possible about how activities and materials used are further linked. For example, if you choose to include in your lesson plan the subjects of biology, chemistry, and English, appropriate career path, among others, include researchers, scientists, analysts, for example. Students are expected to demonstrate while working in groups how the chosen subjects are linked to STEM careers and clearly understand how the STEM subjects you selected for your learning lesson plan are contextualized. Well, the following part consists of the lesson plan table where teacher lists and plan in details how much time will be dedicated to each subject and its activities, but also learning products. In the third part, teachers might detail the ways they will receive and provide feedback on this experience, but also assess their students' performance. Lastly, in the final section, which is dedicated to annexes, teachers are expected to insert all the relevant materials they have produced or used in this learning activity. The list on annexes may include tests the teacher designed, articles used, diagrams or charts produced, text used, and so on. Well, I hope you enjoyed this journey into STEM. Hope you will find all the info I have provided useful to build creative and interesting STEM lessons. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, dear Barbara. Oh, can you hear me? I can see in the chat that there are questions. So I would like to give several minutes for the audience to ask their questions, and then we can move on to the next talk. Please, if you want to ask a question, raise your hand and I will unmute you so that you will be able to talk. That was the question for the attendees. If you have a question, please raise your virtual hand. I can see that.
Thank you, Barbara. However, it was a very interesting talk and very insightful. Really, these approaches are, I think, if they can be implemented around, very effective.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barbara. I mean, this is what I was telling teachers in Uganda, that we can use the local available resources to be able to harness the potential that we already have, to extend the knowledge that we have in simple, terms, in accessible resources to the students. And this presentation was really, really enlightening. And I believe, I mean, maybe the challenge is that some of our teachers may not have been challenged on the webinar proceedings, especially on asking questions. Because I saw someone saying that they have a question, but they haven't raised their hand. Thank you so much, Barbara.
I just allowed to talk to two teachers. I can see the Nariba, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, and also the tutorials account. So please, I just give you the right to ask. You can ask your question. Nariba, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello, you have a question because I can see your hand raised.
Yes, thanks, Madam Barbara, for the presentation and the sharing of the experience of what you have done. I'm one of the teachers that are now working in Uganda, actually in the capital of Uganda, in Kampala. But what I've learned and what you have helped us to share is to use the available resources that we have in order to be actually to be creative and to be realistic and to help our learners that they can create and solve the situation depending on the available resources. But so far, the curriculum that we're introducing to us under the STEM, it is relatively similar actually to the that is already introducing us in Uganda, but the problem that is affecting only the senior ones.
Sorry, the connection is I had to mute you because we are echoing and we cannot properly hear you. If you could write your question in the chat, it would be very helpful because for now we cannot clearly hear you and understand the question. So please write it down in the chat so that we could answer it. Meanwhile, I can see here more questions. So, Nikki Bito, right? Your hand is raised, so please feel free to ask a question.
Yeah, I'd like, first of all, thank you for the presentation. And I would like to pardon the noise in my background. The kid here is just making unnecessary noise. So I have actually liked whatever you presented, and this is very good. Like how my brother must have said, it is somehow related to the new curriculum, but that's not my concern. My concern is it is so much of science. You know, I'm an English language teacher and literature in English language teacher. So I was just waiting to see how the literature, the Shakespeare can come into that biology of this and this, creating this. And I'm still waiting. Yeah, though you've mentioned about, but I feel this is more of a science facilitation and more of a science curriculum. Where are we, the arts, and how are we going to integrate? How am I going to integrate my Shakespeare into this, my Charles Dickens into this? So that's my question.
Thank you for the question.
Okay. Very challenging question. Okay, thank you for your question. I'm a science teacher, so I don't have a wide knowledge of other humanistic disciplines, but what I can see from my experience is that you can integrate science with other disciplines, non-science disciplines, using reaching those topics that are not strictly involved in the curriculum. So what I mean is that you can identify a problem, a physics problem, so a science problem, and you can relate it to, for example, the historical period. I don't know, the reference to some literature, some books, some text. I don't know. We did some activities in which history and literature were integrated. For example, Dante was related to science topic. In some way, they have made a research, a reference into the text to something scientific. So they have created a sort of history around that. But you don't have to focus on the curriculum, because if you are strictly related and focused to the curriculum, you will find difficult to find relations. So you have to be creative means that you have to think widely. You don't have to think what I have studied in literature at school, but what does this mean in literature? What does this mean in history? So this is the difficult step, basically.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We have also another question in the chat, exactly the one that we could not hear, I believe. And this is, what can you do at school that limit teachers on use of teaching aids to their students? Can you see it in the chat also?
Yes. What can you do at school? A school that limit teachers on use of teaching aids? What does this mean? Sorry, that limit teachers on use of teaching aids.
Is it probably the virus? The
or maybe something like you mentioned in your presentation, that with off-the-shelf components, that you don't need to have a lot of resources. By off-the-shelf components, you can do photosynthesis that you showed, or all these different very interesting experiments without very advanced machines or technology.
Yeah, so the technological tools, for example. So this is a question. I don't know. Okay. I think that if you have not many technological tools to implement your activity, is not a big deal, because nature at the beginning doesn't have any mechanical tools, any technological tools. So don't forget that nature is free from technological tools. So we have to think that we must think that nature is free from constraints. So we have to study it from a basis point of view. Technology has come later. So we don't have to think that technology is the only way to interpret nature. Nature is natural. So we don't have to, we mustn't forget it. We must remember that nature might be studied also without any any technological tool, any technological mean. So photosynthesis is a natural process. We can study it, reproducing it in class, but we don't need any tool if you don't have any. It doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. We can do it.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara, very much. We have 2 more questions, and I believe that after these 2, we can move forward to the next panelist, next speaker. So the first question, the attendee with a long name that ends with tutorial and starts with SHB. Please feel free to talk and ask your question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. My name is Hussein Blackie, SHB. I'm a teacher in Uganda who has been practicing here for 3 years now, since I left my training center. Now, I have heard the presentation is very good, and like other people have said already, it is connecting to our new curriculum, which we are trying to integrate in Uganda. But the problems we have so far faced, like me, I'm a mathematics teacher. I've been teaching mathematics. Yes, the other person was complaining about science and humanities that is straight to science, but also in science, we have found cases where we have had concepts which are very tricky in such a way that you look for the way of utilizing resources around you to get out a concept, but the concept is too factual. I want to give an example of like logarithms. I personally was challenged sometime back when I was teaching a topic of logarithm in mathematics and some other related topics actually. But you find that the concept is too factual. So it is just, it needs more of providing a learner with knowledge. Now, when you go when you go down to look for resources and you are to use them, you find the concept is too challenging. So I would like some advice on how I can come about with how to use resources for concepts which are too much factual. I think people can bear me witness. There are concepts which are really very disturbing. You cannot get a teaching aid. The only thing you can do is provide knowledge just the way you have it. So that's my concern. Thank you so much.
So I'm not sure I have catch the point. Please help me. So the challenge is the only way I can teach something in particular in mathematics is by knowledge, not practical activity in mind. Am I correct?
Okay.
Is it?
That's
okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you. What we have to focus around the problem that the fact that a STEM activity must be at first far away from the curriculum. We don't need to choose a topic inside the curriculum. We have to choose a natural phenomenon that might be interpreted, that might be studied from different point of view. So the starting point is a phenomenon, and a natural phenomenon, nature around us. So STEM is everywhere. STEM is not inside a class, inside a program. STEM is all around us. So what we need to do is to choose a phenomenon and to ask ourselves, how can we study it? Not only by knowledge, but through experience. So I think this is the key point. For example, you mentioned logarithms. Yes.
Logarithms.
Okay. Okay. I remember logarithms. What are they? What they are?
I don't know what you teach, by the way.
Science, biology, chemistry, and health science.
Okay.
But I remember mathematics just a bit. I remember. Okay, so the focus is that you don't have to talk about logarithms. You have to talk about something else that relates to logarithm as a means by which you might interpret the phenomenon. So you have to start from the something that happens in the real world, that you can study through a mathematical mean. So not just knowledge, you have to start from experience first, and then comes knowledge. But knowledge comes from a student's approach to nature, not the opposite.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. We take the last question and then, as I promised, and then we move to the next. So, Techno, the attendee with the name Techno, you can ask a question. Your hand is raised and I just gave you the right to talk. Can you hear me? Okay, then we can get back to this at the roundtable part and discussion part of the session. But for now, I would like to give the floor to our next speaker, Tarun. Can you hear me? I'm happy. I believe it's the first lecture you are giving with us, with the Lectures Without Borders, that I am kind of co-moderating. So I'm really happy that you have joined the event. And I will just arrange now that teachers will be promoted to the panelists so that your session would be as interactive as you would like it to be.
Great. That would be.
The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thanks, Eugenia. And I would also like to thank Barbara for explaining everything, so it becomes very easy for me to take it forward. So thanks a lot for that. Okay, so let's start our session. So I'm going to share my screen. And just a minute. Yeah. Greeting of the day to everyone, because all of us are from different time zones. I'm not saying morning or evening, but I want to wish everyone and thanks everyone for being here. So there are some materials which we will need, but we will not take this much of material. Even if you have simple materials like paper, A4 sheet kind of paper or any paper, I think that should be fine. So if you don't have the paper, I would request you to quickly go and grab a paper. I can give 1 minute for that. So I will wait for a minute or so. Just collect any A4 sheet or any other paper from the rough notebook. Anything is fine. So let's wait for a couple of seconds. How many of you have paper with you? If you have a paper with you, if you can write down in the chat. Yes, that would be helpful to understand. And I will also need a lot of your participation. Yeah, so I will also need a lot of your participation. So if you can write down in the chat, I think that would be quite helpful. So, okay, I can see yeses on the chat, so that's great. Thanks for that. Okay, I can see now. Yes, coming from Alex. Let's wait for a couple of more seconds so that others can also quickly grab the paper. Yeah, as I get more yeses, I will move forward. Okay, fine. Eugenia also has that, so that's great. Yeah, even panelists can participate, so that's perfectly fine. Let's wait for a couple of more seconds. Anyone else who could grab a paper? Please write down yes in the chat. Okay, perfect. So I can see at least a couple of yeses, so that's great. So I'm going to play this video and then we will do something, right? So when we are seeing this video, please observe it very carefully, okay? And write any questions or observations you have in mind. You can write down in the chat also, or you can write down on the paper and later you can tell orally, that is also fine. So right now we are not looking for the answers, okay? So don't think that whether I know the answer for this question or not. We are just looking for the observations, and if you have any observation, convert that observation into a question. That's all we are going to do, right? So what is the task? Task is to observe this video carefully, come up with the observations, and convert those observations into questions. That's all, right? So with that, I'm going to play the video. So please observe carefully.
Excuse me, are you sharing your screen?
Oh, is it? I am not sharing. Okay, I think, yeah, I think in between.
Because I was not seeing it. I didn't know if it was me or
Thanks.
general thing.
So yeah, I think because of the network issue, in between it stopped. So yeah, thanks for informing that. Okay, perfect. So yeah, so it is coming up. It is basically a video where you will see a lot of things related to the nature, which we were just talking about earlier. So yeah, now you should be able to. Yeah, so that was a quick video. Now I'm looking at the chat. So if you have any question, you can write down in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself and speak, that is also perfectly fine. Yeah, but we have to keep it quick so that we can move to the next thing. What are the observations? What did you see? Or any questions coming to your mind looking at those observations? Okay, interesting, nice. Now the questions are coming up. That's great. Yeah, I think I will also find it difficult to pronounce all the names, but excuse me for that. Yeah, so Thea is saying, is it autumn? Very interesting, very nice question. Yeah, what else? What are the other questions coming to the mind? And we are not going to judge here anyone. So don't think that there is a stupid observation, a stupid question. There is nothing like that, right? So just share what comes to your mind. Okay, so Alex is saying, is it on effect of gravity and free fall? Alex, I'm not looking for the answer. So if you can share your observation and question first, we will come to the answer later. So if you can unmute yourself and
kakanyombazi kari ka shure board kandi kanyombazi no bakona enda ho etawe kota jumhereza karatizire
George, could you mute yourself, George?
Yeah, if you have a question, you can unmute. Otherwise, please keep yourself on mute. That would be helpful. Yeah. Alex, can you tell your observation and question?
Yeah, so my observation was that we had two kinds of free fall. One where someone had this leaf and then dropped it. I think, is it a leaf or a seed? I'm not really sure about that. But then there is another one that was seen falling from the tree, and another one falling from the sky. I think maybe by wind from one place to another. So that's why I was considering it to be on gravity.
Interesting, very interesting. Yeah, so Alex has a very interesting thing. So that is how we can come up with more observations. What Alex did, Alex tried to compare two things, right? So if we compare two things, then we can see that which one is moving in what way, and does it vary from the other one? And if we see that, then we can have that observation and we can ask questions corresponding to that. So thanks, Alex, for that. I also have a lot of questions from Julia. So how far do they travel? Is this seed edible? Or Alex was saying, is it a seed or something else, right? So many interesting questions which are coming up. So that's great. Okay, perfect. So now what we are going to do, yeah, how is it propagated? Very nice, very nice. Right. So that's great. So we have so many observations and questions, right? So I'm going to show you a quick video, which is a very slow motion video. I think that will give further observations. So that is another way to collect more observation, right? If we can slow down something, we may be able to collect more observations, right? So I am just showing you a slow down version of a very short clip of that complete video. Now, looking at this slow motion video, is there any further question coming to the mind? So I am having that. So let me give that information that it is a seed. Okay. And yeah, so Alex is saying rotation. Yeah, Julia is talking about symmetricity. Interesting. Wow, Thea is asking about what is the speed, surface area, weight. Very interesting, very nice. Great. So we can see, right? So it is rotating. That is the observation. So Alex, what is the question now?
Now the question is about the way how this seed is falling. I can see it's not falling directly, but it is falling in a rotational perspective.
Correct. Yeah, so that is our observation that it is spinning or rotating. So to convert an observation into a question, it is not a big deal. What we have to do, we have to just add this WH words, why, how, right? And then observation can be converted into a question. So here we can see that seed is spinning. That is an observation. Now I'm converting that observation into a question. So my question will be, how is the seed spinning, right? Or what is causing the seed to spin, right? So these are the questions which we can ask corresponding to those observations, right? So we can see different kind of seeds which has this rotation and spin thing, right? So there are different versions of that. So that was our task one. What we did, we observed a video and we asked as many observations and questions as possible with respect to that video. That was our task one. Now we are moving to task two. So in the task two, what we are going to do, we are going to model that movement, spinning movement or any other movement, okay, using a paper. So that is a task for everyone. We will spend maybe 2 minutes on this task. So please make any paper model which has a particular flying pattern, and then you can switch on your video and show it, right? Okay, Barbara is saying maybe there is an algorithm for its rotation. Might be, yes. So we can see a lot of things are getting combined, right? Someone was talking about the math, speed. So physics is coming into play. Then algorithms, so computer science is coming into play, right? Very interesting. Nariba is saying, I think the wind direction determines the movement of the leaf. Yeah, possible. So that is a hypothesis. What you just said, that is a hypothesis, a possible explanation for that phenomena, right? So that is what you are trying to do. But let's see if we can model this, right, using a paper. So let's see. Alex is doing something. Yeah, Alex, interesting. Yeah, whoever is doing something, you can switch on your videos if network is not an issue, so that I can see what are you doing. And yeah, so Alex, I am not going to give instruction here how to make it. So you go ahead and make it in a way you want to make it, right? So yeah, let's see. I hope the question is clear. The question is, how can we model any movement of a seed or a leaf falling from a tree, which is having a particular flying pattern? Here we have seen that it was spinning like this, right? It was spinning. So now, how can we model that using a paper? That is what we are trying to do. So let's see. Okay, Alex has also gone out of video, so I don't know what is happening. Okay, Alex is back. Let's see if someone else is also making. You can keep your videos on if you are making something. Yeah, Thea. Let's see if Thea is also able to make. So once you make something, you can drop it, right? You just drop it and see that whether it is having a particular flying pattern or not. Yeah, Alex has dropped. Alex, do you see any pattern? Okay, okay. Naluja is also there. Great.
No, no pattern for my paper. No pattern. I will do it again.
There is no pattern. Yeah, I also can't see any pattern in the model what Alex has made. So let's see if you can change it, Alex, little bit and see if you can bring some pattern. Let's see. Meanwhile, if someone else also has done something. Naluja, are you able to do something? You can unmute yourself. Here, are you able to do something? Okay, can you show us what are you doing?
But I guess the weight of the paper is, I had a thick paper, so it falls very fast.
Okay.
Instead of like the video more fluid, I guess.
Okay, interesting. So what Thea is doing is that Thea is changing the thickness of the paper in a way, right? And
Yeah.
she is seeing that whether the thickness will make any difference or not. So she is saying if it is thick, then it is falling faster compared to the thin paper. So that is her observation, further observation. So that's great. Naluja, are you able to do something? Sometimes we think that when we are asking something to do, it needs to be a complicated thing, but that is not the case always. Okay. A very simple thing can also be a paper model, right? A model for this thing, what we are talking about, right? So also in between someone asked that how can we integrate math, right? So let's see if we can integrate math with this. So what we can do, we can create papers of different shapes. So maybe we can create a rectangular paper strip, right? We can create a rectangular paper strip, or we can create a square one, or we can create a triangular one, or any other shape, right? And if we drop it, let's see what happens. And rectangle also we can create of different dimensions, right? We can create rectangles of different dimensions, a taller one, a not that tall, a different kind of rectangles. So let's see. Yeah, I think getting this into the view of the camera might be difficult. You could see?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, it is slightly difficult, but if you can make a paper strip like this, just a rectangular paper strip, right? And try to drop it and see what is happening. Every one of you, can you make a paper strip just like this? Make a very thin paper strip, maybe 2 centimeter by 5-6 centimeters, right? Yeah, Alex, let's, yeah, good. Others can also keep their videos on if they are making and network is not an issue. Alex, cut it. Okay. Just make a very small, thin paper strip. Cut it out of the paper. Let's not have the complete paper. Here, are you able to cut? Okay. Just drop it and see what is happening. Yeah, even if you don't have a scissor, you can just use your hand to cut it. We don't need scissor here. Yeah, what is happening? Okay, Barbara also has. Barbara, what is happening? Yeah, did you drop? Okay. Nothing is happening for Eugenia. Okay. It is, you have rolled it, I think, right, Eugenia? No? Okay.
No, it's Anastasia. I folded it. So it's...
Mine,
you have folded.
This time mine rotated.
It's rotating for Alex. Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Very interesting. Yeah. Nice. So yeah, if you just make a simple paper strip like this, and if you let it fall, as I said, you can change the dimension, right? And then we can see what is happening. So now here what we were trying to do, we were trying to model this paper, model this sheet, right? Now this is the task 3, a very quick task. Here I am going to tell you what to do. Okay. So what you have to do is that, just a minute. Yeah. So again, take a paper, okay, and then just cut out maybe, let's say 4 centimeter by 10 centimeter piece out of that. Yeah, a rectangle piece of dimension, let's say 4 centimeter by 10 centimeter. Just cut out that. Any other dimension should also be fine. But yeah, that is a new model what Alex has made. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Naluja, are you able to cut? Okay. A rectangle, right? Now what we have to do, as you are also seeing on the screen, I think, we have to make a cut like this. Okay, we have to make a half cut from the center, right? So I am going to do that. Half cut from the center, right? So you will see this half cut, right? So what we have done, we have made this cut till now. Okay. So let's see if others are able to do. Are others able? Okay, I can see Thea has done it. Barbara has done it. Hussein also has done it. Perfect, perfect, great. Okay, now next step is we have to leave a gap of almost like a finger below this cut. Okay, so we have to leave a gap of almost like a finger below this cut, and then from the bottom, horizontal cut we are making now, 1/3 horizontal cut, right? So what we are doing, we are going to cut from here. Okay, this is the vertical cut. We are going to leave this gap, and we are going to make this horizontal cut 1/3 and fold it. Similarly, 1/3 cut we have to make cut from here and fold it. So these are the two things what we are going to do, right? And it should look something like this finally. So now I have made this horizontal cut this side. Similarly, I am making this horizontal cut, 1/3 cut from the other side. So I have something like this now with me, right? Now what we have to do is that we have to fold this one wing on one left side, another wing on the right side. Right. Okay. Hussein, yeah, Hussein, fold one. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, the other on the other side. Naluja, are you able to do? Perfect. Okay, I can see Barbara has made that. Yeah, you should be able to see something like what we are seeing on this last screen, right? Here, Alex, are you able to do? Okay, perfect. Okay, great. So now what we are going to do is that we are going to drop it. We are going to drop it. And let's see what happens. Yeah, drop it. Hussein, you have to fold the bottom one. You have to fold the bottom part what you have, right? You have to fold the bottom part. Barbara, what is happening in your case? Yeah, Naluja, are you able to drop? Yeah, I think Alex, you have made a different model, but that's perfectly fine. Let's see whether it has some pattern. Yeah, Hussein, drop it. Just make the wings little up. No, make the wings little up. Yeah, what is happening? Is it dropping?
Yes, it's dropping and it's turning a bit.
It's spinning?
Yes, a little, yes.
Okay, let me quickly show a video also. I think that would be helpful. So this is what we are doing basically. If you are not able to follow me, follow this video. Okay. So those are the 3 cuts we have to do. Okay. So this is the vertical cut which we have made. And then leaving some gap. This is the first horizontal cut, 1/3 cut. This is the second horizontal cut, again the 1/3 cut on the other side. And we are folding that. Okay. So this side also we have folded, and this side also we have folded, right? And then one wing we are folding on the left side, another wing we are folding on the right side. So that is what we have done till now, right? This bottom folding is not completely necessary. It is optional. If you want to do it, you can do it. If you don't want to do it, that is also perfectly fine. So that is the last thing what is being done in this video. That is not required. This taping and all this thing is not required really. Okay. Now, so let's see if that is dropped. You can see. So I'm going to, yeah, you can see so it is spinning, right? Yeah. So this is a paper copter which we have made, right? So we try to replicate this by one design, right? So now, because I think we are limited by time, I'm not going to go into the details, but the next thing can be that as we had this question earlier also about the rotation, right? Why is it rotating? We can ask this question that, so when we are saying why is it rotating, we are asking for a possible explanation, which is nothing but a hypothesis in terms of the language of science. So all of you can give your hypothesis, or maybe we will just spend 1 minute. If you can quickly tell why is it spinning, a one-word answer should also do, if you can write in the chat. Nariba earlier was talking about the wind direction can be a contributor. Let's see if there can be something else can also be a contributor. Why is it spinning? That is a question which we are asking now. So let's wait for a minute.
I can see here already an answer in the chat.
Yeah, Hussein, I can see Hussein has written that it can be because of the shape. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, Hussein, that's nice. Very nice that you are thinking from that perspective that it can be because of the shape. Very interesting. The Julia is saying that it can be because of the way wings are slanted, right? Interesting. Maybe wings behave like cells. Interesting. Barbara is talking about that. Nice. So like this, we can have many possible explanations. We don't know which one is right and which one is wrong here. We have to design an experiment to verify it, right? So we will not do it today because of the limitation of time. But if we have enough time, that is the next step to do it, right? Nariba is saying, I think the rotation of the paper is determined by shape and length of each side. Very interesting, Nariba. Very interesting. Yeah, so that is what we can do. Now, what we can do, first thing is that we can change the shape. Second thing is that we can change the length and see the effect of all those things. Interesting. George is also talking about the weight also matters. Yes, if we increase the weight, what will happen? If we decrease the weight, what will happen? Very interesting, very interesting. So, very nice. So let's move forward. So this was a question which we were asking. I am not going into the details today because of limitation of time, but basically we can do all these variations, right? That is the exploration and investigation we can do for go further and see that whether it has some effect on the spinning or not. And by doing all this exploration and investigation, we should be able to figure out that whether all these variables, what we are talking about, really matters for spinning or not, right? So that part can be done after the session by all of you, right? But I think this is a good time to stop and reflect for some time. So let's take 2 minutes to reflect. One thing is that what did you like about each task? We did 3 tasks. The first task was seeing the video and asking questions from that or giving observations from that. Second task was making the model for those moving seeds or leaves. Third task was making this copter design with the design. So here I have given you the design, right? So these are the 3 tasks we did. If you can quickly write down in the chat, what did you like about each of these tasks and how these tasks were different, I think that would be great. So I will wait for a minute to see your responses. Hussein is saying, I have been involved. That's interesting. Very nice. So first thing, we can see that it was very engaging. That is what I think Hussein is trying to say. Second aspect is interesting. Alex is talking about problem solving. Very interesting, Alex. Yeah. We can see that we had this problem that how should we design a model such that it behaves the same way the seed and leaves are behaving. Very nice. So we were working on the problem solving skill also. Very nice. Let's see what else. We'll wait for 30 seconds more. Critical thinking aroused. Okay. George, if you can unmute yourself and tell, why do you think critical thinking was involved? Quickly. Real life case Barbara is talking about. Yes, we can see that we started from a real life phenomena. Very nice. Interesting. Great. So again, because of the time, we will not spend a lot of time on reflection, but that is an important exercise to do for every session. Thea is saying methodology and the order of reading, looking at the video, then the questioning, and then the practical experience. Okay, interesting. Very nice. Okay, great. So here, I think as Barbara mentioned, teaching on reality. Okay. Yeah, maybe I think from the real life example. Appreciated effect of change in shape and being creative in problem solving. Yeah, being creative, very important. That is also very important. Perfect. Great. So we can see that as Barbara talked about the 5E inquiry model, we did something similar to that. So first thing is that I have shown you a video so that you can get engaged to that, right? Second thing is that we did some exploration where we made a paper model, right? For a particular way of flying pattern, right? So we did some exploration there. Third thing was that we talked about that we took this particular phenomena that it is spinning, and then we gave the possible explanation. It can be because of the shape, it can be because of the wings, it can be because of the length of that or the tilt of that. So we try to give explanation for that, right? And then we also elaborated. It is not like once we got a hypothesis, we are stopping there. We try to come up with multiple hypotheses, right? And we can also even extend it further. If it is spinning clockwise, can we do something so that it spins anti-clockwise, and so on, right? So all these things can be done. And evaluation, that is very important. At every step, we can see that we are evaluating that, oh, I folded like this. Am I doing it in a, will it have some impact on that, right? So we are continuously evaluating on each and every aspect, right? So we try to use this model. So the takeaway for the, again, multiple subjects were involved. We can see, right? Biology, we started with seeds, then the engineering, we are making something, and science, we are trying to figure out the answer for some questions, some phenomena, right? So multiple subjects are involved again, which is a very important aspect of the STEM. So this is the summary. So we used inquiry-based learning. You can see that I never gave a answer to your question, right? Whatever answers came, everything came from you, right? As a learner, not from me. So that is the core of inquiry-based learning, that learner is at the center of the learning. Then we use this 5E model, and all these hands-on approaches are fine, right? They are different things. Somewhere I gave instructions, somewhere I didn't give instructions. All these are different kind of inquiries, open inquiry, guided inquiry, all these kind of inquiries. So all these are important. We have to decide at what point which inquiry we want to use. And all are important because we can't just do one kind of inquiry, because then time may be a limitation and all, right? So I think that is all from my side. And thanks a lot to all of you, so because you can participate, and I think it was a great learning experience for me also. So if you have any question, answer, or any feedback, we can check that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was just also thinking about the same what was written in the chats, that our children experience was quite the same. That's what we were doing with the seeds, but without thinking of the scientific background of such games or exercises. Thank you so much. I think that because of timing, I would suggest we will move to the next lecture, and at the end we can keep and save some time for the questions. And also, considering that the session was interactive one, I believe that most of the questions were already asked during the session. I'm really happy to welcome Yulia Brodsky, our long-term and close friend of LeWiBo. Yulia, can you hear me? Can you share the screen? We are very glad that you have joined us.
Just a second. Yes, sharing. Well, first of all, I would like to thank you all for coming, and I really enjoyed Barbara's and Tarun's presentations. We have a lot in common, and project-based learning, inquiry, these are like fundamental things, I think, for STEM learning. But today I would like to talk not only about the benefits of STEM, right? We all teach that, we all tell the kids, you need to learn this because you will live better, you will get new powers and so on. But also about the responsibility that comes with all of these new powers. And let's chat about it a little bit more. So right now we're living in a very fast changing and pretty unpredictable world, right? Our climate is changing, the ecological niches are changing, we are creating lots of artificial ecological niches, we are destroying the natural ecological niches. We see the pandemic that is happening right now. We see the war that just started in Europe that is disrupting the life of the hundreds of millions of people, and the effect of this war will spread all over the globe, even if we don't have a nuclear war, which Putin is threatening the world with right now, right? The nuclear power is the result of our science developments, right? The changes on the planet are in big part the results of what we are doing with STEM. So what should we do as parents and educators? How should we prepare the kids, first of all, to survive in this very fast changing world, very unpredictable world, and hopefully not even survive, just survive, but actually thrive and enjoy living in this world. And I think this is one of the major questions we as educators need to decide for ourselves right now, because we really need to explain to our students that the powers come with responsibility. So these are some of the new powers that we got this century, like last century, this century. We're changing the climate, we're changing the planet landscape, we are moving more sand with our cars than all the natural processes on Earth altogether. We develop vaccines so we can deal with new diseases, but at the same time, we destroy the ecological niches. So we get more diseases from the animals, from the wild animals whose ecological niches are destroyed, right? We have developed the nuclear power, which is currently a threat to the human civilization, and we're dealing with it like these days right now. The doomsday clock is almost on the zero. We're developing genetic engineering. We can now modify not only the genetics of the plants and animals, but also the genetics of human beings. We can make ourselves more resilient to diseases, more resilient to the lack of oxygen, more resilient to toxic chemicals, for example, which may come very handy if we talk about space travel, right? But at the same time, we don't know the long-term consequences of this genetic engineering. We can actually destroy the whole human civilization. We can destroy you know, the way we humans develop. And with, this can lead to our extinction. We're developing an artificial intelligence that can bring lots of benefits to the humanity, but at the same time, it is a non-human mind that we're developing, and some philosophers and some scientists actually predict that we may have a huge problem with the lots of unintended consequences with the artificial intelligence. We now can go to space, but we should also think about what happens as we go to space. What are the unintended consequences? What happens if we contaminate other planets with life? And maybe they already have some type of life on their own on those planets. What if we bring some microorganisms from other planets to our planet, and so on, if there are any? So we have lots of new powers. This is a completely new world. We never had this many powers before. We have no habit of dealing with them, and neither adults nor kids know what to do. We adults don't know much more than our students in this situation. So what can we do? This is a new world. We've never lived in this world before. What can we do? How can we teach our students to use these powers wisely? What would you suggest? What is wisdom in this situation? Anyway, please feel free to you know, answer in chat or unmute yourself. Because nobody has an answer right now, right? We have to come up with an answer together. How do you talk to your students about this? Do you talk to your students about this? The question number one, probably. Do you feel comfortable talking to your students about this? What should be an approach of talking to the students about that?
Hello, Julian.
Yes.
I think it's very interesting that you bring this subject up. Of course, it should be talked about, being transparent. But I don't think, I mean, it's a matter of symbiosis, not only anthropocentric, you know, of how technology and how we evolve. And this power that you mentioned, yes, it's the vaccines. Thanks to the vaccines, the global healthcare system can, you know, be good, let's say. Thankfully, the evolution of technology or the artificial, let's say, artificial intelligence, but also artificial GMOs. But at the end of the day, everything is artificial. We think about it at this moment of time. But it's not about forming an opinion, but stating what is out there, I would think, with the students. And I wouldn't know, to be honest, because I'm not a teacher, and how to approach this. But how I will want as a student to be informed is to state the facts, read the history, like very interesting interestingly, Tarun mentioned also that you have an observation. What can you try to predict? That's why all these models are happening. And yeah, in a team spirit, try to contribute in every sense, but not with fear, not with extreme opinions, but the facts are there. What can we do? And I really believe, though, with this technological STEM evolution, we are lucky to be in this state at this moment of time.
So yes, thank you so much. The history showing the kids how things develop in time is extremely important. Modeling the things that helps us to predict what happens next also seems to be extremely important, and maybe just initiating the questions, helping them to ask what if more often. A what if question is an extremely powerful question. What happens if I do this? And what happens next, right? So it looks like we really need to help the kids to see the big picture, right? The pros and cons, to simulate their actions, and to see what unintended consequences their actions can have. I will show you one very simple software here, and I will share it in chat. And it can be used even with little kids. But if you don't have the software, you can do just the same thing on a piece of paper. So let me put this link in chat. And everyone, feel free to go there, and I will share my screen. So we will start. Oh, sorry, I wanted to click on something else. Just a second. Like, for example, if we take basic ecology here, let's say we have foxes and rabbits. The more rabbits we have, the more foxes we have, because the rabbits are food for foxes, right? The more foxes we have, the less rabbits we have, because obviously they eat them, right? So we can say more rabbits, more foxes, less rabbits, and so on. It is a very simple thing. You know, scientists would put the actual formulas, the actual functions between the rabbits and the foxes. But for now, for the kids, the first step is to see the very basic relationship. Now, this is not the whole system, right? So what if I want, you know, what do rabbits eat? Let's say they eat grass, right? So the more grass, more rabbits, less grass. Now, if I want to play system, I start with grass affecting not just the rabbits, but the foxes as well, right? Now we can add more, sorry? Now we can add more nodes here. We can add diseases that rabbits have. We can add, I don't know, humans hunting the foxes. We can add the amount of sun and rain that affects the grass. Very quickly, the system grows very interconnected, very complicated. But it allows the kids to visualize how, for example, the amount of rain affects the number of foxes. This is something that is not intuitive for us. We human beings do not think in such a complicated non-linear fashion. Most of the time, we don't think that the amount of rain affects the number of foxes, right? It is not a straightforward connection. But all the systems we are dealing with right now, all the complex systems we are building right now, they are all like this. The impact on one node spreads through the system, and it takes time to spread through the system. So there are a lot of time delays built into a system. You may have less rain today, and this will decrease the number of foxes next year. This is another reason why we human beings don't see these connections right away. They don't happen right away. They have a built-in time delay. But this is one of the most important things that we can teach our children right now to predict the unintended consequences of their actions and to predict the future when they're dealing with complex systems. So for those kids who, I will just share another software here for older kids who can actually, especially for you mathematics teachers who want to model not just the qualitative but quantitative relationships. There is a thing called Sage Modeler. I'll put it into the chat. I'll share it here too. So here the kids not only can create their models, but you can also set the functions like quadratic relationship, you know, exponential relationship, and so on. So, but going back to our systems, this allows the kids to see what happens if you change something in the environment, or what happens in the social systems. It doesn't have to be just physics or just chemistry or just biology or just ecology. This can also be applied to what's happening inside your body. It can be applied to what's happening in the social situations. Like when you have a conflict with your mom or your sibling, how does it spread through your family? When you have a conflict in class, how does it affect everyone in class? How does it affect their learning? How does it affect their mood, their ability to focus? What happens if you start the war? How does it spread all over the globe? How does it affect space travel? By cutting the budgets, right? How does it affect the humanitarian aid? How does it affect the number of spots in European universities available for example, students from Uganda, right? This ability to see the big picture, to see the interconnections, to understand the feedback loops, all of that is called systems thinking. This is something that we really need to help our students to acquire if we want the humanity to survive. This is a very good poster from the Waters Foundation that talks about different skills, different habits of mind for kids when they consider an issue, right? So you can see that it says, make meaningful connection, consider an issue fully, and resist the urge to go to the quick conclusion. Lots of people want a one-step decision, a one-step conclusion. a quick answer. When you are dealing with a complex system, it is a recipe for disaster. You need to explain to the kids that rushing to the answer is a problem in itself, right? They should consider the short-term consequences, the long-term consequences, and those may be different. They should consider what happens, you know, with what is called accumulations. You know, for example, you have a jar of water and you add a little bit water, 1 drop of water, 1 drop of water, 1 drop of water, or an avalanche, right? The catastrophic events, you add 1 snowflake, 1 snowflake, 1 snowflake, and nothing happens, and everyone thinks, well, nothing will happen if I add 1 more snowflake, and then you have an avalanche. We need to talk to the kids not only about how systems change linearly, like we change a little bit of here and a little bit of there will change, but how we change a little bit of here and everything changes. We need to talk to the kids about non-stable situations, like you can start with the physics, right? Say you have a ball on the top here and you have 2 holes, and it is a very unstable equilibrium, and your ball can either go this way or this way, or we can have a nuclear war right now and not have a nuclear war right now. But the equilibrium is very unstable. So the concept of stable and unstable equilibrium, the concept of catastrophic changes, the concept of nonlinear changes. This is not just mathematics, not just physics, not just science. This is our way to survive as a civilization right now. So, and this also helps the kids to develop responsibility. When they understand, fully understand the consequences of their actions, this gives you the way to talk to them instead of just punishing them or giving them bad grades. You as a class, for example, can develop a chart that shows, you know, if you do this, this is how it affects the whole class. This is how it will affect your years to come later on. When the kids draw it, when they have a visual representation of interconnections, this really helps them to self-regulate and to appreciate the power of science, to appreciate the power of STEM and systems thinking. So there were lots of studies conducted by Water Center that is teaching the systems thinking, by the United States National Academy of Science. All of them conclude that teaching system thinking and helping the kids to connect it to the real world problems really brings up their STEM abilities as well. So that's why we really need to focus on pros and cons and consider the consequences, right? So, and kids love to talk about complex systems. Those come very natural to them. If you get the group of kids together and ask them, what if, or what will happen, they come up with all sorts of consequences and they start building on each other's ideas. This type of discussion brings the kids together besides everything else. They make friends. They enjoy this activity. They see how different perspectives can enhance their understanding. And you can do it with really little kids. You can start in kindergarten with 5, 6-year-olds. And you can do it in a very playful way. And of course, you can do it with older kids. So we're dealing with all types of complex systems right now: hurricanes, pandemics, wars, market crashes. It's all ruled by the same mathematics, which is amazing, right? Showing the kids the power of mathematics. I love to talk to the kids about such things in a very playful way. I myself have a background in space science, planetary science, astrobiology. So for example, I talk to the kids about space exploration and habitable planets, and ask them, let's consider building a planetary base on Mars. What are the pros and cons of it, right? What will happen? Or for example, you can talk about, and it helps the kids to distance themselves from the current situation and bring lots of science disciplines together in a holistic way. Astrobiology is such a young science that really brings all types of open-ended problems to the kids, allows you to bring in physics, chemistry, astronomy, geology, everything together. So I would be happy to talk more about it with you later on it. I have lots of materials on that. So one of the examples that you can talk when you are teaching biology, geology, paleontology, you can ask the kids, would you be able to survive on the early Earth? And depending on how early it is, there was, the kids think that the Earth never changed. But in fact, the early Earth was hot and highly radioactive. The sun was really cold. It was a young star. So then we can talk about the time when there was no oxygen on Earth, or we can talk about the time when the whole Earth was covered in ice, pole to pole, the Huronian glaciation. Or we can talk with the kids about the Cambrian explosion, when the creatures that were living on the planet lived only in the ocean and were very, very different from what we know right now. And the level of oxygen was not enough for us to live on that planet. So it's as if we had several different planets, not just one, that are quite unrecognizable. So we can talk to the kids how planets and stars change with time, and then this may be a good start to talk to the kids about how everything else changes in time. So I really like the what if question. It is one of the most powerful questions that can be asked in order to develop the system thinking and imaginative thinking in STEM. And I really think we need to focus on the big picture and interconnections, the changes of perspective. What if I look at it from an extraterrestrial point of view? What if I look at this from an animal point of view, and so on? This creates lots of engagement, lots of sense of wonder. It's very playful, and it also shows us, helps us to deal with our habitual thinking, our biases. When we look at our planet from extraterrestrial, out of this world point of view, for example, we see our own misconceptions about ourselves. For example, we share this planet with other creatures that experience this planet very differently from us. We don't smell as well as dogs, for example. So the dogs experience the reality very differently from us. We don't hear lots of sounds that bats, for example, can hear, right? We don't see as well as hawks. We see in different colors than other creatures. So this brings us to the question of what reality is and how we experience reality, and brings us to the questions of how do we study science when our own vision of the universe is so limited. Our vision is limited, our hearing is limited, our sense of smell is limited. Why do we need science? How do we expand all of those abilities? I also wanted to show you another tools that helps the kids to understand that we really don't have a good intuition about how things are changing. The NetLogger tool is a really great tool for older students, for high school students, and can be taught either as a mathematics or science or computer science thing. So I just put it in chat just for you to see it, but I'll also go into this website, and I'm going to run it here. So imagine that you have a forest and you have a forest fire. So let's say you ignite your forest from one side, but you set your forest density, the distance between the trees, is pretty big, right? So let's say I ignite my forest. You see almost nothing. The fire stops almost right away. So let me do it again. You see the fire spreads just a little bit, and then it stops. It was 43% density. Okay, then density. Let me move it, let's say, to, I don't know, 53. The fire spreads just a little bit more. We increase the density a little bit more. The fire spread a little bit more. Let me do it again. Let me change it, let's say. So we increase the density a little bit more. It spreads more. The difference is drastic, right? What if I change it just a little bit more again? So let's say it probably will spread just a little bit more, right? The forest is gone. We changed it just a bit, but the situation is completely different. This is a non-linear system. In NetLogger, you can model those trees. You can model all other types of events. You can model economical events. You can model physical, chemical, biological phenomena, and see what happens in non-linear system. This is one of the best tools you can give your students to explore this type of events. But this is not for little kids. The little kids can watch the models. This is for more like for high school and kids and undergraduate students. So let's go back to my slides. I'm almost done. So in our class, we put lots of attention on questioning. answering questions and more questions lead to a much fuller understanding of the pros and cons of the situation. And the kids really love doing their webinars and podcasts. So they collect something like a list of questions. I'll show you a list of questions done by my students. They really wanted to learn about space medicine. So they invited a guy who is doing space medicine, and I have the kids all over the globe, and they were asking, what is astromedicine and why it is important? When did you first hear about space medicine? What are some types of diseases you can contact in space? How do viruses evolve in space? Are there any cures for those diseases? What diseases can worsen if we go to space? What if you caught an unknown disease? What are the protocols? What do you do? Will children be affected by going into space? If there are any aliens, can they, infect us with the virus? What happens if you have a heart attack on space station? How do you educate people to be space doctors? What if the doctor falls ill? What if you developed a space medicine? Now what? How do you know how it works in space? Is it possible to use the X-ray from the stars for medical purposes? Could astronauts take medicine or vitamins? Is it safe for astronauts to be on multiple drugs at the same time? What if a fellow crew member is dead? What do you do on the space station? All types of stuff. So they bombarded the poor person with all of their questions, and they had an amazing, amazing conversation on that. And the kids, they come up with really good and profound questions that some adults cannot come up with. So we really need to collect and value those questions. And then they share their questions, those webinars that they do with the world. We have a YouTube channel, and I will share it with you. It's completely free. Feel free to watch it with your students. For example, you can see we had a discussion here with Dr. Shostak, who is a senior astronomer at Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And we were talking about how do we get energy from the sun. Or we talked to Shadi Akiki, who is using the artificial intelligence to study the language of the dolphins. It would be so amazing to have a human dolphin translator and actually see whether we can talk to them. So what I want to say again, we really need to respect our children. We really need to talk with them about complex things that we are facing right now as a humanity. We need to give them an option to contribute to what we are doing, starting from asking questions, to giving them the tools to explore the complex systems, and to understanding that they will be the people who will be facing all of the issues we are creating for them right now with all these new powers.